Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello, everybody at home, and welcome to Houselights. Today, we're saddling up for Back to the Future Part 3, the film that trades hoverboards for horses, DeLoreans for steam locomotives, and the mall parking lot for the Old West. It's our kickoff to a new retrospective looking at Robert Zemeckis in the 1990s, a decade where he wrangled cowboys, desert island FedEx packages, and death itself. I'm your host, Tristan Riddell, and with me tonight is a loud, unpredictable, drooling gunfighter who is looking for an excuse to shoot at your feet, John Mills.
Yes!
Also is our own mad scientist who is one train model away from slapping train wheels on his own minivan, Darren Moser. So grab your Stetsons, polish your flux capacitor, and let's all feel the power of love.
Yes. All right. I love that intro, especially because you cast right. That was very good casting.
This felt right. This kind of casting felt right.
It's natural. You just knew when people walked in who they were going to play tonight.
I would have finished the model if I hadn't had to spend so much time on my iced tea machine, okay? It took a lot of time, guys.
I love that the ice cube was dirty. Like it was the same consistency.
Like
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? I don't know if that could exist back then with the technology, but I believe it.
I feel like if John was hosting, he would have cast me either as Seamus McFly or the Mortician.
No, you would have been the baby.
Hurtful.
It's not hurtful at all.
I would have made you...
you're the cutest character.
The Strickland ancestor.
I like that one. I like that, yeah. Discipline.
That's, yeah. I could see that.
So, okay,
I could see that.
I'm super excited. I'm glad that I got to host this week because this is... I'm going to outright and say it. This is my favorite Back to the Future film. I love this one. Yeah. For me, it goes 3, 2, 1. That's always been my ranking ever since the 90s, ever since I watched these. It's the one I've seen this one more than any of them.
Okay.
I've rewatched this one a lot. I really, really enjoy it. Is it perfect? No. Are there things that I don't like about it? Absolutely. But it's my favorite one of the three. And this will be kind of hard not to talk about the trilogy as a whole. Now, obviously, we'll be focusing on part 3, but part 2 and part 1 is going to sneak in here and there. And John, did you see this in theaters?
You know, it's been so long that I think I might not have, because 1990, if memory serves, no pun intended, was the summer of Total Recall, was it not? So I think I might have watched Total Recall a ton of times. I know I saw that at least twice in the movie theater, which adult John looks back on and regrets because, boy, was that some wasted money. But I was easier to impress back then. But, so I don't remember exactly when I saw it for the first time. I know that I'm coming at it from a different angle than you are. I'm glad that you're putting out there that it's your favorite one, because I'm really going to want to dig at that, because the entire time that I've had the Back to the Future trilogy in my life, my rankings have basically flipped between 2 and 1 in the number 1 spot for me. I've always been one of those that loved part 2. I just thought it was so crazy, over the top, unrestrained, that I just always plugged into that. And at the end of it, I couldn't wait for the next one. And I always considered part 3, I'm going to borrow Darren's term here, but it was in my head before. It's like a coda. Like I have often used the Back to the Future trilogy as an argument against simultaneously filming sequels. And we can get into that later, but that's sort of my relationship with it. Darren, what about you?
Oh, you're going to take my own words. So we're going to get into it right now, John Mills. No,
his own words before we started recording.
You've been inceptioned.
Special private moments before the record button had been
nobody
pressed.
said it was off the record, Darren. Nobody said it was off the record.
The recording is the record, John. It was literally off the record. No.
Oh, okay. Fair.
Yeah, I had mentioned that there are times when this third movie does feel like a coda, especially since I think we can all say on a technical level of storytelling, as far as the time travel-ness, it peaks at 2. They're literally revisiting the first movie, the first events, intercutting with the movie. If you're watching them all together, that we literally just saw. Whereas this movie yes, you have time travel, but you're spending 90% of your time in the Old West and then you jump back. So it's much more taking a page from the first movie where you're not hop, skipping, and jumping. You have your problem, you have your issues, and you have a picture that keeps fading. So very much like the first movie, coming full circle. But in other ways, it's a very different film. We're spending a lot more time with Doc, it really makes you look back at the time we spend with him in the other two movies is a fraction. Whereas this, he gets, I would almost say, top billing in as far as the main plot goes. So jumbling a bit as I try to remember where I buried the DeLorean. But yes, I would say that this movie, it was also made with the intention of being the finale of the story. It says the end at the end.
Right.
And I think which I don't think is a bad thing. So,
well, I think actually, just to mitigate maybe some of the vibe from what I was saying initially, the thing I do respect is that they said, this is it. And everybody knows Gale and Zemeckis have it in the contract. You can't do it without us. There's no part 4. There's no reboot. There's no nothing without our agreement to it. Now, when they finally shuffle off this mortal coil, I'm sure that Universal Studios will have a few different thoughts about that. But for the time being, that's it. So I do respect that this does very much approach as the ending of the story. There's no continuation vibe at the end of this. Yes, Doc goes off, but it's very clear we're not concerned with these adventures anymore. This is it. Cartoon series a few years later, notwithstanding.
And the
I
ride,
was wondering who was going to bring up. The cartoon, yeah.
To this day, I desperately wish I could have ever ridden the ride at Universal Studios. I'm very familiar with the Simpsons ride, and I very much, while I'm riding it, I'm sitting there trying to imagine. I'm like, okay, where would this have been?
How dare
in a
you
Back to the
stand
Future
where
thing?
he stood, basically.
Right. Yeah.
No, the ride was a lot of fun. I remember riding it a couple times in Universal Studios Hollywood, and I wouldn't go far as to say it's part 4, but it definitely, works with what's been established, and it's a lot of fun for 8 or 10 or however many minutes long it is. It was a really good ride.
Yeah. Actually, I'll put the question out. Like, do you think the fact that they managed to stay true to their word and not do a number 4 has helped cement this series, like built its esteem and kept it legendary, that it never got franchised later? Has that helped it grow in esteem over time? Because we know that there are only 3.
I think so. I think it's one of those things where they didn't, beat a dead horse. I think that always goes a long way because I guess it's hard because it's different animals. Like if you look at Star Wars or Star Trek, there's good, there's bad, there's ups, there's down. But with Back to the Future, it's just this nice package of 3. They're all enjoyable. Some have their favorites, some like more than others, but you can't call any of them a bad movie. Like
true, very true.
Like with me, like even though the first one is my least favorite, it doesn't mean I don't like it. It doesn't mean it's not a good film. It's just my least favorite. It's kind of like the Dark Knight trilogy or I'm blanking on other trilogies, but it's I know this is a stretch for some, but like the Godfather trilogy, I like the third one. That's just me. Fine.
I like the recut. I like the Godfather coda. Okay, the recut I think is great, but the theatrical.
But think about
lacking.
Think about the Alien franchise. I think that might be a good comparison.
RoboCop, where you have a steep drop off in the third. Like that's usually what happens.
I'd argue the first steep drop off is in the second, but that's just me.
Even steeper.
Let's talk about Zemeckis a little bit before we get too deep into the woods, because this is a director-focused podcast. We're talking about Robert Zemeckis of the 90s, and if you look at his work, his first motion picture was I Want to Hold Your Hand, and then Used Cars, Romancing the Stone, then Back to the Future 1 in 85. He did a TV movie for Amazing Stories. I didn't know that. And who of course, Who Framed Roger Rabbit in 88. Back to the Future Part 2 in 89, and then that brings us to 90. So obviously Romancing the Stone and Back to the Future 1 and 2 and Who Framed Roger Rabbit that's a lot in one decade, just in the 80s.
That's a lot
just
of
for
crowd
one
pleasers
director.
in specific.
Yeah,
and
specifically.
Not just, but the thing is, I think that brings us back to something that Darren was saying earlier again about like he's a guy who loves playing with the technology. He pushes
so
the
much
envelope.
like Lucas. He's
right.
very much like Lucas in that. And
Yeah,
I don't think Lucas gets enough credit, at least in later years, on how much he pushed the envelope in technology.
He doesn't, but I think Zemeckis gets unfairly overlooked on how much he's been so playful with everything. Yeah. And the thing is, it's always playful in the sense that you get the sense, especially from Zemeckis in the 80s and 90s, of a director who is just having a blast. When he's pushing the envelope with something, it's because he has a crazy idea. He has that comic book kid brain where it's like, well, wait a minute, what if they could do this? And then it's such a fun idea. You get the sense of the effects team being like, oh, that would be really cool, wouldn't it? Like that, like you get a very much a vibe of a director who has this infectious glee getting away with the magic trick. And I think that gets to the cast, that gets to everybody.
I would also say, just on looking at his entire filmography, I mean, pro or con with the full CG movies in the 2000s. I mean, you have Polar Express, Beowulf, and Christmas Carol. I will say he is definitely trying and pushing. Whether the technology was ready to really support that. I mean, I always remind myself again, 2002 with Attack of the Clones was like the first time we had gone full digital pipeline for an entire movie.
That was the absolute first time we didn't have a loss of generation.
But you also have something rendered at whatever P it was. So it was
1080. It was 1080p.
Yeah.
And not even a good 1080p. But the thing is that it pushed the boundaries. That's what he had available at the time.
It did.
And if you look at Zemeckis' filmography, like live action animation integration with Roger Rabbit, motion control, and really interesting VFX for Back to the Future Part 2, digital compositing with Forrest Gump, motion capture for Polar Express. He pushed. There's a lot of stuff that happened in Polar Express that made Avatar possible. Yep. And also, I'm completely blanking on the movie. Here that just came out with like his integration of deepfake technology with Tom Hanks and Robin Wright.
Yeah, and I've yet to see that. It came and went so fast. That's sort of the thing where every director has their ups and downs and they lose steam. But I think that, the thing is, this is going to sound so much like damning with faint praise, but Zemeckis being the guy who loves to push the boundaries, I would argue that what we see is the disorienting nature of working digitally, because you had to be very clever to do the certain tricks, very measured, very planned, very like there were so many things through the entire pipeline. Again, taking Back to the Future Part 2, and you have to line everything up so perfectly in the optical compositor and get all of that stuff done and get the eye lines right and all that type of stuff. I mean, they have trouble doing split screen today, and they could literally do it perfectly. Whereas just look at that point right there. And it's like, how? Why are you looking at his eyebrows? Stop. Right? That sort of thing. And the fact that you enter into a digital age where I think I'm not going to blame Zemeckis. I'm going to actually wind up blaming the crop of effects engineers. I think that with a lot of Zemeckis' later work, it would behoove effects teams to be forced to go back to do one scene in the old ways, to force them to think about how precise they have to line everything up and match everything. And I think that it's just one of those things where the tool, I mean, honestly, the digital tools are still so new, quote unquote, that I think that's why you see so many filmmakers and audiences yearning for the more practical stuff. So,
well, and not just the practical. I think, I've watched some videos about the shift of visual effects, but in regards to that, you're also seeing a shift into post-production where where post-production is now where movies are built and remade and reshot and reconfigured versus, again, going back to the 80s and 90s, where not that you didn't have post-production, obviously you did, but so much was in pre-production, previs, like getting the story locked down, getting the shots locked down, because you couldn't just say, oh yeah, Marty's going to come around the corner and we'll figure it out in post. Like, no, the camera has to be in a certain spot so that he can be in two places at once. Like all of these rules of reality that you had to work around. So it gave us that crop of films.
Darren, so when we had the first one, we had obviously it's sci-fi because it involves time travel, but so much was spent in the 1950s, a very much glorified version of the 1950s. And so that was kind of the tone of the piece. And then when we get to the second one, it's pure sci-fi. It's, all over the place. It's in our future at the time. And, like the Jaws effect, the hoverboards, everything is really crazy. And then we go back to an alternative reality, which also is elements of sci-fi. It's also, the plot is much more convoluted. It's a little darker. And then we go to a complete genre shift with the Western motif. It's a much more simplistic storyline. It's like, we got to get to point A to point B to point C in this amount of time. And so I want to ask you, Darren, what did you think about that genre shift? Was it nice? Was it a nice departure, or was it too different? What do you think?
I think it works because at its core, the sci-fi element of Back to the Future is a vehicle to tell a unique story about friendship. It doesn't really matter that there's a time machine, and like we don't spend barely any time with the time machine, really. We're not hot tubbing in it. We're not doing all of this stuff. Instead, it's how do we get our characters into this, highly improbable, impossible time journey where they now have to figure out, friendship and love and growing as characters. And those truths, you could take out the sci-fi element and it wouldn't matter. So it works regardless of that. Now, I love the sci-fi element because it makes it fun. I love the 1955 parts replacement for the tiny mighty that's strapped to the hood and is like 4 feet square. And it's vacuum tubes and all of that. It's all those little things. It's Doc talking about thinking fourth dimensionally. And again, all of the payoffs, because at its core, you still have a writing team and a director that is very, very smart, that is treating their audience as they're smart, and has the setup and the payoff where they're nipping those what could be plot holes, like the fact, like Clara Ravine, the fact that they establish, she would have died if Doc had not been sent to the past. So the fact that she's pulled out of time doesn't impact the future. And it's from 2 or 3, not throwaway lines, but minor lines that I'm glad are in there, because Back to the Future does that from the get-go. They work very hard. Now, I'm sure there's flaws and cracks here and there, but for the vast majority of the plot, of the sci-fi plot, it's very neatly sewn up.
Yes, I'm not going to contradict anything that you're saying. I think that one of my biggest issues with things is that for all of the charm that's in here, I find everything you're talking about, they just don't get to it quickly enough. In the first and the second one, the pace is just bing, 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 bing. Like, especially the second one.
It is a different pace.
If you're not paying attention in the second one, you're going to get lost. Like, it's spaghetti. You're like, oh, okay, what thread is going here? In this one, it's very straightforward, which is not a bad thing for a movie. A to B to C to D works 100% of the time. You'll never lose a single person. But you have to keep an eye on pace. And it's a little disorienting because they don't get there fast enough, in my opinion. I think that they have for me, it's the center third drags a bit.
Well, because if you think about it, in the first movie, it's all about repairing the damage of getting his parents back together. That gives you something to do because you're still waiting out the clock to the lightning strike in this regard, we're kind of also waiting out the clock to get there by Monday, but it's a very different, there's nothing to repair. It's Doc falling in love. And no, I think you're right. I won't say it doesn't destroy the movie, but it is a definite shift in pace where you're kind of like, it's not even a will they won't they get together. It's just a crawl as they're slowly turning the pages.
Yeah, I'll be honest up front that's actually why I'm knocking some points off for this movie, is exactly what you guys are talking about. I feel like even though this is my favorite, I can't give it like a perfect 5 because there is that drag there where you're just like, you're checking your watch. You're just like, okay, I want to get to more time antics. I want to get to more craziness between Doc and Marty. And I just feel like Clara kind of drags that down. And this is, this movie is very much centered around Marty, Doc, Mad Dog, and Clara. Like those are the 4 people that take up the most time in this film. And so, John, what do you think about, obviously we love Doc and Marty. What did you think about the addition of Clara? What did you think about her character and what she brought to the movie? Did you think that she was used too much, too little? Was she a plot device, a fully fleshed out character? What did you think?
I don't think she was fully fleshed out. She very much feels like we need to give Doc something in this one to do for himself. We all agree. Doc is not heavily we spend less time with him in part 1 than we think we do. Right. And I think that this one, they wanted to give the Doc character a chance to shine. I think it's the lag, that slowness of pace is what works against the Clara and Doc relationship, because I think that Steenburgen and Lloyd work well together. I like the energy that they have with each other, of these 2 awkward people who don't really know how to approach somebody in this situation. I just think it doesn't work to her benefit, because she shows up, and when she's on screen, Steenburgen is giving a very definite energy, and it seems jarring sometimes because the pace is not that energy. It's like she showed up with the energy for the first 2 and they were doing a different movie, and it's like, but that's not her fault.
I like that. I think that's very insightful. That's an interesting take, because there was something that always felt off, and I always thought maybe it was Steenburgen's acting, and I was just like, oh, maybe Zemeckis didn't get the performance that he was trying to get out of her. But I think that's more apt, because we've seen some amazing performances from her, and I think she probably saw the first one and was like, okay, I'll do that. And then she brought it.
Not to rewrite, but to rewrite. No, not to fix the third one, but it made me think of City on the Edge of Forever, one of the best TOS Star Trek episodes. And with that, you have the love interest, Edith Keeler, and Kirk trying to decide if, at the end on whether or not he's saving her and the impact on the future. All that to say is, what if they had add a bit of conflict in that regard, where I don't know the exact plot points, but more along the fact of he's trying to fix the future and unsure about how she's going to fit into this. And they're trying, like, maybe she keeps, being in situations where she's in peril or something. And at the end, she realizes, oh, we can bring her out of time and it's okay. But you have something in the middle that's because we don't have that.
I mean, I could pitch an idea right away, but this movie is almost 40 years old. And so what's the point? But so I won't, unless you guys really want me to, but I won't, don't worry. But I think Darren, that would have been a solution, is to make her more integral to what's happening outside of having to be in love with
Right.
Doc.
He's worried about messing up the time space continuum.
I think, if anything, and people might consider me a Back to the Future blasphemer for this, but I would have stepped back on the Mad Dog a bit and instead have him be a smaller character where they know he's coming. And it's sort of this shadow that's in the background, and they're not interacting with him. Yes. Oh, no, Buford Tannen is coming. And it's like, wait, Biff's Grant, and so when he shows up closer to the end and you see, that it's Thomas Wilson in the makeup, you're like, oh, yay, haha, yay, they did it. Right. As opposed to, they carry forward with the spittoon and then the manure. And it's like, okay, the gag doesn't work as well here. And I think that if you had Tannen as this sort of outside force that they're racing against, they know he exists. You would, but you don't have to spend as much time with him directly. You wind up giving Clara more time to become integral to the plot.
I'm not discounting what you're saying because I do think that would work. Absolutely. I think, but that's a very different movie.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
And to me, I loved the Tannen scenes, the Mad Dog scenes, and I liked them more than I liked his character more than any of the other previous ones. And I know that he was heavily involved, especially in the second one. Because there's so many of them. There was 3 different versions of him in the third one.
Yeah,
I mean the second one
and one young. Yeah,
young, old, and middle aged.
Yep.
In the alternate future. Yeah. But I liked Mad Dog more. There was just something about him that was just freaking hilarious. He's like, I'm gonna hunt you down and kill you like a duck. It's just
but
so tropey, but fun.
That is the conflict. Is Wilson he's the secret weapon of these movies. Like it's easy to heap praise on Lloyd and Fox. Yes, they are core to this, but Wilson plays the antagonist so well through all 3 of them, and I agree. It would have been a completely different movie, and we would have had to sacrifice a lot of great, funny scenes with Tannen. I still laugh at I'm going to, like a duck. I think it's like a dog. What? Or when he's trying to count to 10 to get him to come outside. It's like 6. He looks over at the other guy. 7. That's a cute gag.
No, I would definitely praise his performance in this. I think with the makeup, or not even makeup, just the mustache and beard, I don't even see Wilson. Like, he is so transformed in this movie. It's not like, oh, that's just Biff, but with a mustache. No, I see a different person. And I think that gives him the freedom to be more, I'm going to shoot you, than I'm going to beat you up and take your lunch money. Like, that's Biff's level of involvement. This is a serious outlaw, and he should be.
Something I would have loved to see go differently, but couldn't have because Crispin Glover famously isn't in 2 and 3, is I would have loved to have seen an alternate timeline of our own where Glover played Marty's ancestor as opposed to Michael J. Fox, because in the second one, it's a fun gag seeing him play his son and his daughter. Like it's funny, it's silly, it's dumb. Right. With this one, it just doesn't play the same way. And I think it would have given.
I completely disagree. I think I loved him as Seamus.
I think they would have had an opportunity, though, to have a more meaningful interaction between them instead of a funnier interaction between them. Again, it's just like what I'm saying about Wilson. If there's less of him, then there's less stuff that I liked happening. And the same thing with Fox as Seamus. But I think you could have had a more meaningful interaction between the 2 of them if you had that timeline where Glover was involved.
I'll go down the middle. I see what you say, Tristan, and I wouldn't trade Seamus for anything because it's just, I think Fox is doing amazing in that, like, maybe not the accent, but it's a funny, great character.
I love Leah Thompson's how she says Eastwood. She's like, Mr. Eastwood. They're both such horrible accents, but it's so great.
It doesn't work. Yeah. But I like the idea of it being Marty's dad, because really when we see him in the first movie, he's not confident yet. He's not really, there's nothing for him to teach Marty until the very last moment when he gets his confidence, punches out Biff, and now is worth it. So we never see the confident dad get to share his wisdom with Marty. Whereas if it had been that actor, for Seamus, now he is, because Seamus he's got his head on straight. He's a family man. He knows the value of helping others, but also not being a pushover, and really Marty's problem with being chicken and being inflamed by that.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing that come from a father figure that's not physically him, I think they could have leaned into that even more.
Well, it would have been nice to see Glover as the dad, because it would have had some really nice symmetry. And also, side note, it's Crispin Glover's favorite Back to the Future film is the third one, which I find really funny.
That seems like such a Crispin Glover thing that I'm not at all surprised to find that out.
Well, I think Fox and Wilson both said that this is their favorite too. Is the third one?
I know they had a lot of fun filming it. I watched some of the behind the scenes stuff, because this was my excuse to finally open my 4K set. And Fox sat there and talked about how on his days off, he was able to just go down to the local fishing hole, and he would just spend all day fishing on his day off. And he's like, it was really peaceful. And it's like, yeah, I can imagine that it was. So they probably, I think that filming 2 was extremely stressful because it was very technical. And then they got to come into this, and it was like, okay, everybody, you can take a breath. And it's like,
and filming 1 was
God.
a nightmare because they had to refilm everything with Michael J. Fox.
Right.
And Wilson, I think, got the brunt of that refilming. So he was exhausted for like 5 years. But yeah, with Crispin Glover, that we would have had some really, I think you guys are right, we would have had some really touching moments, but I feel like that wouldn't have helped the pacing. I feel like if we devoted the time that we needed to that in order to get that nostalgia, that symmetry, those cool father-son moments, it would have just prolonged him getting to town, getting dragged by the horses, and starting the plot even further. And I think it just would have been more frustrating. And because with Fox as Seamus, you get in, you get out. It's the cute thing.
Yeah,
you get him waking up in bed.
And that's it.
Yeah, he shows up when he's needed, and that's it. We don't feel like we have to hold on to it. Like, because if it was Glover, I feel like we would have had another major character. It would have been 5 people instead, maybe 5 or 6 people. Because if you have Glover, you probably focus more on Leah Thompson too.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think it's just you're adding to it. I feel like you can't add to it and say, oh, we need a faster pace as well. Because I get that from my clients all the time. Like, make it longer, but take stuff out.
I think that I think that this gets to my whole bit about saying this is an argument against filming your sequels simultaneously. I think giving yourself the time in between films to take a breath and really check your thinking about what is going to work for the next one, how to really take it. I think just a little bit more development time on the script would have helped them get to that point where they would have been able to balance everything. And I think that you're going at this breakneck pace. And I mean, I remember even back then, it was when they said, they were like, oh, they're going to release practically one right after another. And everybody was like, what? That's insane. Like, it was a crazy idea back then. Like, we don't think anything really of it now.
Right.
But
I think it's 6 months apart or so, which would have been
they were released 6 months apart.
fast.
That's insane. Even the Matrix sequels were released a year apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't help them too much
Although,
either.
for what they set up, I mean, there's a handful of Seamus double shots. Like, technically, this one's the simplest. Like, there is way less special effects, way less time, duality. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they're burning all that in the shooting of 2, but it's not like they shot this and then tried to do something of the scale of 2 on the I think they would have died. Like, it would have just been
apparently
too much.
Zemeckis, while he was shooting 3, would have to fly back and forth between Los Angeles and was it Northern or Southern? Was it Northern California where they shot this? I can't remember. Anyway, it was a flight, and he had to approve the audio mixing of the second one while doing principal photography on the third one. And he would get up at 4:30 in the morning to fly, and then fly back at night. It was insane. It was an insane schedule. I'm surprised
Both
he
were
didn't.
shot over 11 months. My gosh.
Yeah. I mean, it's no Lord of the Rings, but that's a lot.
Well, I mean, if anything, you could give more credit, I guess, to Back to the Future Parts 2 and 2, because there was no source material for them to lean on as their foundation. Like, this is all just from their, they didn't base this on a pre-existing work, basically.
I want to ask you guys about the cinematography before we get into the set pieces. This was photographed by Dean Cundy, who also shot parts 1 and 2. I feel like each installment has a very unique look and feel.
Agree.
Like not just with the production design, obviously, but almost feels like the film stock that they use is different. And just like, I feel like Zemeckis has a very clean approach to filmmaking. He very much, you know where you are at all times, like geographically speaking. You know where the characters are, you know where the town is, you know where the buildings are, you know where you are in the room. Every shot shows you exactly what's going on. He doesn't hide anything in editing with any kind of tricks. You know what I'm saying by that. Like obviously there's editing tricks, but you know what I'm trying to say. And a lot of that is because of Dean Cundy and his editors. And so I want to ask you guys, how did you feel about the look of the third one compared to the previous two? Do you feel like it was apropos to the Western style, or did it feel kind of out of place? I'm an open question to you guys.
I wouldn't say out of place. And the thing is, I have to go back and look at maybe an earlier edition, because this is, like I said, this is my first time watching the 4K. And there were moments where it was a little jarring to me because some of the work looked too artificial in terms of its lighting. It was too bright. I get like Cundy, I think is one of the greatest cinematographers that's worked over the last several decades. I think his outdoor stuff in Back to the Future Part 3 is really strong. Some of his indoor stuff felt a little too, and maybe this was intentional. It felt a little, and it's odd to put it this way, but sort of like TV lighting in some of the ways. But that could have very much been intentional on their part. And I would just have to go back and look at an earlier edition to see if the remastering process undid them a little bit here with this.
That's interesting that you talk about the indoor stuff, because I felt like you probably would have criticized how bright the outdoor scenes were at nighttime, even though Darren was salivating while he was watching in the outdoor scenes because they were so bright.
Was there any nighttime shots? It was so bright the entire film. It was great.
No, but see, the thing is, I could see that easily as that's a hallmark of the old Westerns. They shot everything so you could see it back then, quote unquote, sort of thing. That held the vibe of a Western to me. It's like inside the saloon and stuff like that. But I really think it might just be the addition, because the indoor stuff in the saloon later in the movie, like near the end, was impeccable. Couldn't throw a single stone at it. It was some of the earlier stuff, especially like, I think there's like a nighttime scene in the saloon where it was like, I could see the beam of light coming from just off camera to light everything. And it was a little disconcerting. You could tell it was a spot. And it was like, it was odd.
I mean, the vibe I got from the inside shots, or some of them at least, yeah, I kind of see what you're saying, John, about the TV niche feel. And I don't think it's the lighting. It's more of, obviously they move around within the scenes, but for the vast majority of the shots, it's coming from one angle. It's like a TV set where you never look at the other direction. So Doc's blacksmith shop, we're almost always looking towards the door, like in every single shot.
I see what you're saying.
In the saloon, we're almost always looking out towards the crowd from behind the bar. In the McFly house, we're always looking. So again, not every shot. Obviously, they shot reverse shots and takes, but the vast majority feels very one-sided. And not saying that's bad. It just is a vibe. The train was always moving from left to right. No, I'm just kidding. That's just good filmmaking. So.
Speaking of the train, Darren, I feel like, I mean, we're all nerds here. This is the nerdparty.com. But Darren, I feel like you take it to the next level in so many different avenues of your life. Tell me you're a train guy too. You feel like a train guy.
No, I mean, I am a train guy. It's more of like Lego trains. I was never growing up, Lionel, anything like that. But yeah, building things and trains, they were always fun. And I always loved the Back to the Future train. I mean, it's just both forms.
My dad was a model train enthusiast, to put it lightly.
Oh, okay.
He bought model trains the way that I bought Star Wars toys. Like Star Wars toys was my version of my dad's model trains. Comic books were my brother's version of my dad's model trains. We just amassed these massive collections because every time we saw one that was cool, it was like, oh, and trust me, it's taken years of taming that impulse over like having to clean out my dad's house when he was finally called home. I had a moment where I was like, very famously, I was like, I now live my life in such a way that if they wanted to erase my existence in less than 48 hours from this house, it is possible to do. But yeah, model trains, I am the one that's going to love the train work in this one because I just thought it was so much fun. It reminds me of my own dad. And I've had the extreme pleasure of having seen the time travel train on display at Universal Studios Hollywood. I'm not Hollywood, Universal Studios Florida here in Orlando. And with the Doc Brown standing there, they rolled out the DeLorean recently too, so that everybody could see it. But yeah, that train is here at Universal Studios. It's a kick to see it. Most of the kids don't notice it. They just walk by.
What do you guys think of that set piece? Because when I think Back to the Future, I think about the final train sequence. Like that's what pops into my head. When I think about the trilogy as a whole, that is the set piece that sticks out in my brain.
Are you talking about the accelerate to 88 miles per hour or the Doc comes back at the very end with Clara?
No, like the when they're trying to get it up to 88.
Got it. I'll just say it's brilliant. They found a way to... I mean, we talked about slowing things down, but they found a way to encapsulate that moment from the first movie where he's accelerating to 88 and stretch it out into like 20 minutes because it's the train, because you're very slowly and methodically advancing towards 88. While you're on a precipice, while you're almost falling off the train, like it cinematically works wonders. So we showed this to my two children who are 9 and 13, and that entire sequence, they could not sit still. They were bouncing up and down, cheering. They're like, well, he's got to get in the car, right? Like they could not figure out how he's going to get in the car. I'm like, well, he's going to have to jump. And they're like, no, he can't jump. She's going to fall. And they're not hearing her. Like they were so invested in that scene. It is the climax of climaxes for that movie.
It's not the first thing I think of when I think of Back to the Future, but I think that for all of the qualms I have with the film, Zemeckis knows how to end them strong. It's like a reverse Donner effect, where every so often with the Richard Donner movie, like you get the sense where he's just like, that's good enough. Whereas Zemeckis, you can tell he's like, okay, I know I got to end this a certain way. And I think all three of the Back to the Future movies, the endings are super tight, really well orchestrated.
Anti-Stephen King.
Ooh, yes. But I think that technically speaking, I mean, I could watch that train sequence over and over again because it is just trying to pull it apart and say, how long did it take them to do this? How sick were all of these people of this train sequence by the end? Like, all right, back to train up. Okay, that's going to take, another hour there, Bob.
Back her up.
Yeah.
Back her up.
Oh, camera wasn't up to speed. Take it back. Okay. That sort of thing.
And they couple it with the miniature work, not only in the future time train, but the driving off on, like, I think
amazing
a dozen cameras on it as it I still, it's so, it had been a while since I'd watched the third one. And I was telling my wife as they were racing towards the end of track, which is just 20 train ties. And I'm like, they're going to destroy the DeLorean. You can't drive you can't drive anything through that without it being obliterated. I wasn't thinking fourth dimensionally. It wouldn't be there by the time they got to it. But yeah, that ravine drop is glorious.
If you told me when I was a kid that was a miniature going off into the ravine, I never would have believed you.
No,
I would have said,
I still don't.
No. They destroyed a real train.
I still don't believe it because it is filmed so well. It's absolutely convincing. And I just, huge kudos for it.
It's weird. My favorite part of the crash is the firewood. I don't know what it is, whether
I get it. I get it.
The method of the frame rate, or if they made the firewood out of like really dense, heavy material, when it impacts and the way the firewood from the tender car lands, you believe it's full scale. They nail it. Doesn't bounce off like it's styrofoam or something like it. It lands like, oh, that's a cord of wood that just landed on the ground, and it nailed it.
And that gets back to the challenges of the digital age, is they always struggle with the weight of things, and the model makers could easily show them the way to say, no, you have to think this wood weighs something. It has heft to it. You can't just have the computer.
I mean, how big was the model though? It was like 6, like it was huge to begin with. It wasn't.
Was it
like
a bigature?
It was. I'm pretty sure it was massive. Like,
okay,
like third scale or something. Like it was.
That is massive. Also so this was my first time watching the 4K disc as well. And John, I want to ask you, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but when they were in the library in the 50s and looking up the history of the town, they had a bird's eye shot of the library.
Yes.
Was that a matte painting?
I'd have to go back and look. I didn't catch it if it was.
For some reason, okay, this is going to sound weird, but I know that you guys and our listeners will track with me. At the end of, this is not a matte shot, and at the end of Aliens, when right before they go to credits, they pause on a still.
Yes, drives me crazy.
Of Sigourney Weaver and Newt, and there's no grain movement. So you can tell that it's just a still. And it drives me nuts. That's something that happened in the library around the edges of them. There was no grain movement on the outside. So I need to look up. I was just wondering if you guys knew if that was a matte painting or not.
I will have to go ahead and look that up as well and rewatch it, because it did not jump out at me.
Watching it on the 4K disc was the first time I noticed that. But I know that I know we're getting close to the end here, and I know that we like to talk about the music at the end. I friggin' love Silvestri's score in all three, and especially this one because he got to work with ZZ Top.
I think it's a great score. I think there's a lot of energy in it. I can tell that Silvestri is also having a lot of fun. The ZZ Top thing always makes me cringe a little bit, though, because
why?
Because the way that they have their appearance in it is not as subtly done as when Huey Lewis appears in the first one. It's too big. It's too big because they have that shot that focuses on them doing their trademark twirl and the camera pulling. And it's like, it's too much. And it's not like I'm deducting a star for this. I think it was a little bit over the top with it, over the ZZ Top.
Yeah. I mean, we all saw that coming, the whole spin, the
they had it in the commercials
drum.
Back then.
It's true.
They advertised that ZZ Top was going to be in the movie.
That rendition of Double Back is in my head an inordinate amount of time. Like I am probably maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, you'll hear me going around the house going,
it's a catchy song. It's a great song.
I've learned something. This is the first time I've heard that. As long as I've known you, Tristan, that is the first time I've heard you say that. Interesting.
I'm surprised you haven't heard me hum it in the background. All right. Okay. We're rounding third here. Let's how many frisbees are we giving this film? Darren, I'm going to start with you because I'm hosting and I love starting with you.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, no, I mean, one other effect, we were praising the model train crash, although then they stick, I don't think it's CG, it's just more compositing explosion dust over it. And it looks
that was very
terrible.
Obvious.
It looks so bad. I'm like, you must have been having to hide something. Or I don't know, but yeah, we all know that part was terrible. But this was fun to revisit. It'd been a while since I'd watched 3. It's not usually in my rotation. Not that I don't care for it. It's just it's a different vibe. Definitely, it feels like it's the odd one out when you're thinking of the two. Again, not in a negative, just in a tonal location. I had to suspend my disbelief that there's a giant like mountain right behind the courthouse. And I'm like, I don't remember that mountain 100 years later in Hill Valley, but okay, it's fine.
Hey, landscapes change, man. It's all about time.
Okay.
And
Maybe they
meant
dug it up and filled in Clara Ravine or something.
Has there been an earthquake? In Hill Valley, maybe
that destroyed a mountain, John?
Possibly. Maybe Doc Brown destroyed
that
it with an experiment of his. Who knows?
Yeah, or the fact that you're in. We don't know where Hill Valley is, but apparently it's like right around the corner from Monument Valley. Like really close, guys. Anyway, all that to say, I can suspend that disbelief. I'm giving this a solid 4. It's a great movie. It's fun to revisit. Like I said, though, it's not in my active rotation of sci-fi. I'm not like, oh man, I can't wait to sit down to 3 again. It's more like when the time is right, it's fun to put in and just enjoy it. I think we talked about all the highs and lows of this and gave it a real fair shake. But as a finale to the trilogy, it's great. It leaves me wanting nothing. I don't want to be like, oh, but what happened to Marty next week? Their future is unwritten. Let your imagination, hey, what a wonder. Let the audience imagination imagine what, Doc and Clara are up to and what Marty and Jennifer are up to. That is the best finale we could have. So 4 Frisbee pie pans.
John, how many cartfuls of manure are you giving part 3?
Well, I struggle a little bit with this. I've really sat with it since I watched it. And I initially came out of it and I was like, that's a 3. But then I spent a lot of time sort of chewing it over. And while there are problems of pacing with this, I think that this movie could and should have been shorter than it is. I think that there is enough. You still got Lloyd and Fox. Just their charm just is just exploding off the screen. I think that last train sequence is just a technical marvel, and I have to give it extra points for that. I think that while I'm sitting there, arguing about Mad Dog Tannen, Wilson is so much fun in this movie. He's having such a great time, and I'm having a great time along with him. So I really sat a while with it and thought it through, and actually I'm going to land with a 4 as well, because it is overall satisfying, and a strong ending can really make up for sins in the first 2/3. If you end strong, your impression of the movie is going to be a lot better than if you invert that. So it gets a 4 this time from me.
I kind of echo the same thing that you're saying, John, because you're not wrong about the pacing. This movie should have been shorter. It should have because if you're not going to fully develop Clara, you should have her cut down a little bit more and, up that pacing, put it together, make it faster, cut to the chase. I'm just a little bit more forgiving, I think, overall, just because I love this movie so much. I'm giving it a 4.5 because it's not perfect, but yet for me, all those negatives far outweigh, all the positives far outweigh the negatives. And I think it's just like, this is such a strong closing. Like Darren, you said, you don't want a 4th one. You're like, you could have it, but you don't need it. You really don't need it. It's like why on earth would they make a Toy Story 4? I hope they don't do that. Because Toy Story 3 ended so perfectly.
Still haven't seen 4. And I won't see 5. So,
oh geez, there is another one coming out, isn't there? Anyway, we're not going to be talking about Back to the Future 5 next week. But Darren, what are we going to be talking about next week?
Oh, we're kicking off this great decade of the 90s with Robert Zemeckis, next with Death Becomes Her from 1992, here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.